honestly, first impressions are, overall, aesthetics are nice. It's a nice looking little stove, but the attention to details and the quality of this paint finish is, right away I can tell that it's lacking, and I'm going to zoom in on what I'm talking about. So this is just a really careless paint job. It's kind of touching it and it's just flaking off. I don't know if there's some kind of a coating and the paint is coming off on my finger. So that's really disappointing for the price of this stove. I'd say if you're looking at a Jotul, be prepared for the finish of it to be somewhat lacking. It's kind of funny they put this quality control card on it. Whoever these guys are clearly don't register too high on the GAF meter. Alright, I'm just waiting for this thing to dry out after I cleaned it one last time, and I'm going to use a grout release because this is a really textured porous slate tile. So the directions for this are basically just apply it liberally, wait 30 minutes, and then grout it, and this should get removed as part of the grout removal process. That actually looks pretty cool. I might put a maybe a semi-gloss sealer on this after. I'll check back with you guys in a half hour. Alright, so I mixed up a little bit of grout. It's kind of the same as mixing the thin set. I mixed it a little bit wetter. I don't know if that's proper or not. That's just how I do it. And same, you let it slake 5-10 minutes, remix it. And I'm going to try and grout this a little different. Normally I kind of just slather it everywhere and wipe it off after, but with this porous tile I'm going to try and kind of keep it towards the cracks. So you go about 45 and then you kind of wipe it off about a 90. There's not too much to it. Again, this is a little different than like a ceramic tile where you don't have to worry as much about it getting it into all this natural pores. Alright, see now I'm running into the it's called lippage when the tiles are not level with each other, and so starting to run into that. The floor is pretty flat, but the wall was not, and so you got different tiles that are different levels, and it's compounding that. I also did a 1/8 grout line, so it doesn't give you much margin of error. Generally for large format tile you want to use a larger grout line because you can fudge it a little bit on the tile flatness, but with that thin 1/8 grout line you just don't have a lot of room to play with. Alright, so that's everything, and I like to go over it and look because a lot of times you'll miss something like the very edge, so you just want to make sure you hit everything. Okay, I got a bucket of clean water, sponge, some gloves, and I mean it's pretty basic. Get your sponge wet, wring it out. I like to wring it out pretty well. Just wipe like that, and it comes up, and it takes quite a few passes. So I take a big, pretty much go over every joint before I clean the sponge to get all the heavy stuff off, and then I'll clean it, and I just keep cleaning it and wiping and cleaning and wiping until I don't see any more. Kind of wipe at a 45-degree angle if it's possible. Like this back joint, it's not really possible, so I'm not gonna worry too much. Okay, so I'm basically going to keep wiping this until I'm satisfied. There's another step. There's going to be a haze when you stop wiping it, and you basically wait 2 hours and then wipe it again with a cheesecloth, and that's supposed to release the final grout haze, and it should just look like the normal slate tile when you're done. So I'm going to wipe it some more, then we'll wait 2 hours, then we'll wipe it again, and we'll see how it looks. Okay, well, I've just been wiping this thing for about an hour straight, and it's starting to get to the point where I think it looks all right. It's still a little bit wet, so you can see a little bit of streakiness on it, but I think when it dries, it's going to be okay. I may have to go over it 1 or 2 more times, but I think it's dry enough that we can move on. And I don't know if you can see it, there's another section right there where they just missed on the paint, which, you know, might be forgivable for a less expensive stove, but this thing is pretty expensive. Let's see if I can lift this Okay, so I got this in the approximate position where it's going to be, and I want to take a second to talk about 30 seconds to talk about clearances. So there's what's called a protected wall and a combustible surface. I'm actually not treating this right here as a protected surface, and the reason is, and this is what I would advise rather than trying to research everything about what constitutes a protected surface, is get a stove with a clearance to combustibles that you can live with, rather than trying to use a shield to reduce the clearance and wondering whether you're doing it right. This thing has a clearance of 8 inches, and this is double wall B pipe that has a clearance of 6 inches. So with the hearth sticking out the way it is, about 7 inches, and needing a clearance of 6 inches to this, the limiting factor is not this back wall. It's actually how close this pipe gets to this hearth. And the same with the floor. I did have to do a lot of research on the floor, and the 1/2 inch of Durock with the slate tile qualifies as a UL protected listed hearth board. So now I'm going to use this pipe and basically going to try and get it as close to the hearth as I can without violating that 6 inch of clearance. Oh, that's a tight fit. I think it's getting in there now. All right, so that is 7 1/4. So I could actually go back a little bit, which I probably will because I want to make sure I have enough protection in the front. But let's check this for level first. Okay, that is level. So let's just check one more time a little bit more precisely. So yeah, we, to the closest point, we're 7 1/2. So I got 6 1/2 inches of clearance. I'd require 6. I put that gasket material in. Those pieces of wood let me slide it around, get it situated without having to drag it across the tile. Okay, so there's this little heat shield here, and interestingly enough, you're actually supposed to use it with double wall pipe instead of and not with single wall, because it says the collar temperatures will get higher with double wall. So we'll put that on. There we go. And this, I think part of the reason why the clearances can be so low on this stove is it has this extra metal heat shield built in. It also has a heat shield built in on the bottom, which is kind of a nice feature. Then this one, it looks like it goes like this, and then there like that, and then close that, and then you've got the flue here, that's closed, and that is open. And all in all, a nice looking stove. This is not a trick of light, it's just an area that didn't get any paint, and then there's that same thing going on down there. So that's disappointing, but it does seem to have some nice functions, and I have high hopes for it. Am I going to do anything about it? No, because it's a pain. Thing weighs 1,000 pounds, and getting it out and returning it and getting a different one is just not worth the effort, so I just got to deal with that. Okay, well, I really can't go much further today. It's getting dark, and I've got to get home, and if I go out on the roof by myself, I'll get in big trouble, so I'm going to take off. If you watched this far, chances are that you liked this video. If you did, if you give it a like, I'd really appreciate it. And in a week or 2 weeks, I'll finish up this install, and you'll get to see the first fire in the stove.